This is your captain speaking. We will be at altitudes of 0. You'll be exactly where... Actually, maybe you're listening to the podcast on a plane. I don't know what altitude you're at, but I am your captain speak. I always think about pilots as people that had a dream. I mean, like me, in a sense. I wanted to be a comedian ever since I was a kid, like a little kid. I wanted to be a comedian. And that was my dream, and I stupidly followed it. Like an immature, unevolved person who never grew, I just went, I want to be a comedian. And then I kept doing it. You know? Instead of growing up, getting a real fucking job at the desk, an assistant, a parking spot with my name stenciled on it. I blew it. Like a child. Like people that become firemen or astronauts. They all had this dream. Everybody romanticizes it. Oh wow, you're a dancer. Yeah. How's her life really? She's in the background of some Broadway musical that she fucking hates because she's been doing it for 9 months, 8 shows a day, 8 shows a week. She makes scale. She misses everybody's weddings and dates. She can't fucking date anybody because she's dancing in the background. She gets 2 free tickets a week to give to relatives. Come on. Is that a dream or a fucking nightmare? Just get a job. Become... I don't want to take the shine off of this dream thing for you people, but there's too many people watching American Idol and America's Got Talent, and they're being told. America tells you, follow your dream. You have to follow your dream. Otherwise, you won't be fulfilled. No, you will be fulfilled. You'll get a fucking jet ski, and you'll take trips to Mexico. You'll do all kinds of shit. You'll develop interests. Maybe you'll get a model train in your garage, and you'll stand on the driveway with your neighbors and drink beers and talk about politics. You won't be sitting in some fucking flight to Poughkeepsie, New York, to do a bunch of stand-up shows for drunks. Look, I love you guys, and I love doing the shows, but 31 years of it, this dream is, it's been dreamt. It's time to wake up. And I feel the same about pilots. I think pilots, you know, they had a toy plane as a kid, and maybe they were mildly on the spectrum, so they stared at it a lot and zoomed it around above their head, and they wanted to be a pilot. I think a lot of pilots are on the spectrum. And then you become a pilot. You go to fucking pilot school. You log all your hours. I don't know how it works, but I know it takes a lot of time, energy, effort, money. And now you're a pilot. And you get up in that sky, you're flying that plane, you're dreaming your dream, and then you got to stop down halfway through and go, attention passengers, don't forget the new Delta Sky Miles Gold Card. Sign up today and get 30,000 free miles. What the fuck am I doing? Stewardesses will be walking up, flight attendants. Did I just say stewardesses? I'm sorry, passengers, and any non-binary passengers in particular. I want to apologize for the fuck up. I mean the mess up. Sorry, I'm a little angry. Signed up to fly a plane, not be a credit card salesman, but here we go. Fill it out today. 2% APR. Transfer balances. I'm done. I'm done. Fuck this. I'm moving to Alaska. I'm going to fly people from place to place in Alaska. I'm done with this. I want to be a pilot. It's my birthday yesterday. By the time this podcast goes up, it'll be 2 days from my birthday. Had a great one. In my family, as you know, if you listen to the podcast, you get a perfect day on your birthday, which means the family serves you breakfast in bed, gives you presents and cards, and then you proceed to do whatever the fuck you want all day. You want to go get a massage? You get a massage. You want to take a bike ride on the beach with the family or without? Your choice. Dealer's choice. We took a bike ride. Me and the wife took a bike ride. Threw a move on her. It was a great day. Perfect day. Met up with some friends for dinner at an outdoor place. Watched the finals of the NCAAs. My buddy, the great Pete Scott, was in town from Atlanta. Had a business account. Picked up the whole dinner for all of us. Great time. Perfect day. My daughter made me a drawing. My daughter's a really talented artist, even though she doesn't really do it enough. But she's got the gift. You know, some people have the gift, no training, and she can do a drawing that looks... if she goes off a picture, it will look exactly like the picture. So she got an old photo of her on my lap when she was like 3 years old and drew it. I was very touched. Much rather get that than a shirt from Banana Republic. Sleeves are too long, collar's too tight. It's the wrong color. You gotta fake it. Give me something handmade. That's nice. Got a lot of phone calls. My buddy Kyle McGovern, one of my best friends in the world, we were born on April 5th together. Every year since we were probably 10 or 11, we've celebrated our birthdays together. We always talk on the phone for a while. He's doing good. He's a judge in Tarrytown, New York. Tough judge. Even though we were delinquent kids, he's the judge now. He doesn't fuck around. If you're a teenager in Tarrytown, listen to this podcast, mind your P's and Q's. Judge McGovern's going to send you up the river. No, he's the best. He's a very fair judge, and he's one of the most decent people that I know. Just a really solid guy, raised some good kids, and I wish I lived in Tarrytown. I've got some really good friends back where I grew up that I think I could be very happy in my life living back in Tarrytown. You know, they say you can't go home, but I think I could go back to Tarrytown. Anyway, talked to my mom. She sent me a Scarface t-shirt. It was a brown tie-dyed Scarface t-shirt because she said she saw it in the store and it reminded me of how I used to watch Scarface every Friday night for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. Me and my friends would, you know, get high, get some beers, watch Scarface as teenagers. I don't think my mom knew about the pot necessarily, maybe a little bit about the beers. And it was just a very weird gift. It's like, maybe I'll wear it in a mall. Maybe I'll go to a mall and wear it out. Wife got me a bicycle. My bicycle got stolen last summer. She got me one. It's very nice. And and I got my second shot. I got my Moderna shot. I waited online for the first one. You know, Moderna goes bad. It spoils. And so I waited on the surplus line, and I caught some unused batch of Moderna for my first shot, which gives you an appointment for the second shot. That's how it works in California. Got it. My wife and son went down hard with flu-y symptoms like a couple of pussies. I got it, woke up in the morning, golfed, went and golfed. That's right, 9 holes. And on the 9th tee, all of a sudden I got hit with flu-like symptoms. I was 1 over par. 1 over par! And then I double bogeyed the 9th hole. Went home, got into bed, fucking aching, headache, bad. Slept all day, woke up in the morning, 100%. Now I am clear. I guess I got a 90% chance of not getting it now, or giving it and getting it. But I feel good. Now the whole family is vaccinated. Everybody in the family. We're good. So I took a picture of me getting the shot of the needle in my arm, and I'm holding the camera up as a selfie, and I got hundreds of comments, but many of them commenting on my neck and the skin in particular on my neck and how much it resembles that of the skin of a turkey. So thank you for your feedback. The others were anti-vaxxers who were calling me a sheep and giving me shit for getting the shot, which is encouraging. as we go into the third wave of the pandemic, which has the it's a race between the country getting vaccinated and these what do you call them? Permutations, not permutations. Once I can't think of a word, I can't think of it. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so yeah. So thanks for the comments. And people say to me, Greg, you're a comedian. You've got 80,000 followers on Twitter and on Instagram. Why don't you get on social media more? Maybe because of this kind of shit. Maybe I don't like on, my comments that, am I supposed to reply to people that are so rude? I think they think it's funny because I'm a comedian and I can take a joke. Maybe I can't. Maybe I don't like my neck right now until I get the plastic surgery. They're going to take skin off my ass and they're going to put it around my neck. I don't think that skin's that hot either at this point. I've been sitting on it and farting on it for a lot of years. Yeah, Greg, get on social media more. Yeah, of course. Hey, Greg, you know what you should do? You should walk into dark alleys in really shitty parts of cities late at night. That's what you should do. And get on social media more. Hey, Greg, you know what you should do? You should drive Uber or Lyft on St. Patrick's Day and New Year's Eve. You should do that. You know? Hey, Greg, you should get on this new dating site. It's called the Chlamydia Connection. You should meet people on that and have sex with them. And get on social media more. Why? Why do people do it? Follow me at Greg Fitz Show on Twitter. Greg Fitzsimmons on Instagram. Here's a note I got from somebody. I get a lot of notes from you guys. If you ever want to write me, it's fitzdog@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. Nathan said, I found your podcast right after I got sober nearly 5 years ago. It was refreshing to hear your perspective. Your comedy really normalizes addiction and removes the heaviness of it. I would find it annoying to hear someone trash booze without at least acknowledging it was a blast until it wasn't. That's right. I am not a liar. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that booze is evil and you're going to be miserable drinking. No, it's a lot of fun. Frees you up emotionally. I think you're more emotive to your friends and more vulnerable, and I think you can let yourself go. It's great. I miss it, but didn't work for me. Although I should say to Nathan that I am what you call California sober, high and dry. I do smoke a little weed once in a while, but I have not had alcohol in 30 years, except one night. The night of Kevin Meaney's funeral. I drank, I didn't get drunk, but I had a few swigs of Chivas Regal. And goddamn, it tasted good. But I didn't need it, and I haven't had any since. That was, I don't know, 4 years ago? 3 years ago? Full disclosure. Just telling you. So he says, in 2015, I was working remotely in Peru, where I had the opportunity to take ayahuasca. I saw my life lived 3 different ways. It really showed me the current destructive pattern of decision-making and kickstarted my sobriety. You know, that's what they say about ayahuasca and mushrooms to some degree, is that it can be, look, use a guide. If you want to get sober with it, you got to use a guide, and they will help you achieve some goals using psychedelics. But if you just take it to get high, I don't think it's gonna work. So anyway, he said he re-listened to my podcast with Neil Brennan. I think, and Neil talked a lot about it. He's been very successful using the ayahuasca. Let's do some nicknames. I solicit nicknames from you guys because I find that most people have one, and it's almost always a good story. Dennis says, my friends started calling me Captain Burnout during high school basketball games. If I scored a basket, my buddies would yell out, hey, hey, rah, 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 Captain Burnout. My mom asked me what they were chanting, and I lied, saying it was something about squealing the tires on my piece of shit Chevy Nova. Yep, that's what you do. You got to spin it. If your mom says, "Hey, how come your friends all call you horsecock?" We went to a farm and I was playing with a horse and then a rooster. So they I don't know, they call me horsecock. Chevy Nova, yeah. A couple of my friends had Chevy Novas. Good engines, good strong engines, but shitty steering. It literally, the steering was so loose that it would it would sway, it would drift as you were steering a Chevy Nova. It would drift, and I'm talking about like a '76 Chevy Nova. I love old Chevys, but not the Nova. Nope. Ryan Collier said, in college I was cakes. Bunch of dudes over at a buddy's on a Sunday watching football. I walk in the kitchen, there's a gooey butter cake. And I kindly cut up the cake, put it on a platter, and served it up to all my dude friends. A kind gesture became the gayest thing they had ever seen, and I became cakes. I love that. Because when you're with your buddies like that, I mean, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of woke movements going on right now about how to behave in terms of gayness, commenting on homosexuality. But when you're with a bunch of dudes you grew up with, it's just gay is funny. And it's not, I really don't think it's meant in a mean-spirited way. But this poor motherfucker, Ryan, is called Cakes now. Because he was being gentle. He was being what they would deem feminine and thus gay. And so he is mocked for it. Now, are these guys homophobic? No. Do they beat up or tease or refuse jobs to gay people? No. But this motherfucker Ryan cut up a cake and he brought it in like a homosexual would. I'm kidding. I don't know what to say anymore. I don't know what's acceptable. Let's do a couple of say whats. These are say what? Things that your grandparents, maybe your old uncle, somebody old you knew, used to say. It was kind of charming, and we're trying to keep these phrases alive so they don't die with the old people that say them. Scott Fluker says, hey, grapefruit, a couple of dog-themed pearls from Australia. Quote, he couldn't drive a greasy stick up a dog's arse. Huh. He says this is referring to someone's dubious driving skills. A greasy stick up a dog's arse. Yeah. He also said, quote, I'm not fucking this dog. I'm only holding its tail. Used if you are implicated in an activity, but not the instigator. What's going on down in Australia these days? I certainly wouldn't want to be, you get a lot of these Australian shepherds here in the States, and I see why they're all coming to the States, trying to get the fuck out of Australia so they don't get a stick up their ass or some guy holding their tail while another guy cornholes them. Seth says, my mom's friend says, for every pig, there's a pig fucker. Usually when she sees an obese couple or when referencing a sane person who is married to an insane person. There's a lot of bestiality in today's Say What. Send them in. Always use some fresh new ones. My guest today, and I got to tell you something. This guy's been on the show a bunch of times. He is just the best. He's so goddamn funny and unique and smart and you know his career. First movie he did was Cloverfield. He was in the How to Train Your Dragons movies. I don't know if you saw those. But Silicon Valley is how he really got on the map for a lot of people. He carried that show. Carried it. Not afraid to say it. Deadpool 1 and 2 he was in. Yogi Bear and a bunch of other stuff. And he's had some HBO stand-up specials. And he's got a podcast. And he talked to me today from New York City. Here's my chat with Mr. T.J. Miller. All right, TJ Miller sits in a yellow shirt, a Curious George toned shirt, in a terrace in Greenwich Village. His hair is tousled. His glasses are just big enough to let you know he's in show business and doesn't give a fuck.
I don't know about that. Or to prevent masculine degeneration.
How's your health, by the way? The last time you were on my podcast, they had just poked around in your brain. I think it was like 2012. Was
it that long ago? No.
No, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. We were sitting on the back porch of my house. Remember?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely done it since 2012. It hasn't been 9 years.
No.
But it hasn't been since I've been in New York, and I've been in New York about 4 or 5 years for sure. So it's been a while.
Years ago. Right.
Yeah, I mean, 2015, excuse me, 2015, I had another seizure because I stopped taking my preventative seizure medication because they told me it was elective.
Right.
And so that might have been around the time that
sounds right.
We last spoke. But since then, my neurologist sort of said, you're going to be taking this medication for the rest of your life. So, get used to it. It's going to be your friend for life, as he said. And yeah, that's, but since then a lot's happened. It's relating to my health. I had sort of a battery of psychological tests taken, like a neuropsychological evaluation and all this stuff related to a misunderstanding I had with the federal government, as I like to refer to it as. And, we've discovered all this stuff about how I never really did any cognitive rehabilitation after my surgery because it didn't even really exist in 2010. Right. And so now, over a decade later, they're sort of saying, you need to have some cognitive rehabilitation because I'm prone to hypomania.
Right.
And manic episodes. And that's happened a few times in my past and led to some pretty bad situations. Like one time I had a manic episode, but it was a real psychotic break. And so that's like where you think the television is talking to you and birds or drones that the government sent after you. And the Chinese government is watching you through your computer and really like.
How long were you having those thoughts? Like for sustained period or just for like a day?
No, it was like, 24 hours. I couldn't, but it was so bad I couldn't go into work. I knew enough about what was going on to know that I could not go into work on Silicon Valley. So that was like the one day of work that I missed in the 4 or 5 years that I worked there. But, what I came to find out is that, that had to do, I think, in part with a lapse in medication. But, what I'm coming to understand is that the brain surgery would be seen as brain trauma, like as if I was in a war and a grenade exploded and shrapnel got into my head and then they saved me. And so they're trying to sort of understand that. I'm also one of the very few people that ticks the boxes of had an AVM, arterial venous malformation, had it successfully removed, and am a high functioning, highly successful individual with this, post-surgical life. So that doesn't happen. Usually it's found in autopsy. It's how they discover most AVMs.
And then as the cause of death?
It can be. Yeah. I mean, it's, if it hemorrhages, then that's where you get to a brain aneurysm or a stroke that then it's not attended to, then you can die from it, certainly. But a lot of times they just exist and, they don't necessarily, they're much smaller than the one that I had, for instance. Mine was the size of a golf ball. So that's a pretty big mass of your brain to have never used, because it's malformed when you're in the womb. So the rest of my brain had to that's the amazing elasticity of the human brain. It's the rest of the brain had to kind of figure out how do how do we do everything a normal functioning brain would do without this very important piece of real estate in the right frontal lobe?
Is that related in any way to the hypomania, or those two?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can think about it as if a brain kind of from the get-go was given less real estate, then the rest of the brain, if it's going to pick up that slack, has to work kind of in overdrive at all times, because it's handling everything that part of my brain would be doing.
Right.
And so that's where the mania comes from. It's just, it's easy. It's hard. Most brains, chemically can regulate themselves the way any normal human mind would. And my brain kind of always has to be doing a little bit more. And so it's harder to regulate and come back down once things start moving.
Right.
So it's very strange. It's like some people are bipolar 1 or bipolar 2. And I guess I'm on the spectrum, but in a weird place where I don't really suffer depression. Or if I ever have any kind of depression, this is very strange, it will sort of turn into kind of like maniacal laughing. And, it's some pretty Joker type shit. It's very strange.
Yeah.
But no, this has actually been a good experience to be able to have some New York professionals really look into all this stuff, because I didn't have a neuropsychologist and I didn't have a psychiatrist that specializes in, mania and people on the bipolar spectrum or whatever.
So how long have you been medicated for the bipolar? Because I have depression, but the way they treat depression a lot of times is they actually give you bipolar medication. Like I take something that you may take. And the thing that I find is, as a creative person and as somebody who does stand-up, which is bursts. I mean, stand-up comedy is not a 9-to-5 job. It's a 4:10 a.m. job for 20 minutes. Yeah. And then it's a 12 to 1 o'clock job when you're looking at your notes. And so having mania in any way it's sort of like you find stand-up comedy with that mindset, because it plays into it so well. But I find with the medication, I don't have the same bursts that I used to have. I'll take that trade-off because I also don't have the depression that was crippling, but I've lost the top end of creativity. Do you feel that at all?
Well, that's a big thing. I don't know what you take. I was prescribed just to have kind of a funny, nostalgic poster and then a Jimi Hendrix Experience poster on my wall at all times. That was the first thing I was prescribed by my psychiatrist, who said, that'll just make you happy. It'll make you seem like a fun guy. Definitely paint the walls in sort of a dark kind of Kermit the Frog green. Wear a hoodie, even to formal events. That's what I was sort of told to be doing. But no, I mean, right now, the psychiatric team that works with Kate and me wants to put me on a super low dose of lithium. Okay. And the reason he wants to do that is he says, a regular dose, which would be 800 to 900 milligrams, if we give you 150 milligrams, that might be an adjunct medication that will just temper the possibility of going into a hypomanic episode.
Right.
And those don't help me on stage. And I've never had one on stage. That comes from not sleeping, from it speeding up. And then, I'll store, for the longest time, I would sort of regulate the mania with a little bit of alcohol. I could sort of, because it's a effective depressant, if I sort of had, a few drinks and my tolerance is so high, then I wouldn't feel tipsy or in any way affected, but I would sort of, my body and just everything would just slow down a little bit. So that would slow down my mind. But he feels like the lithium will make it easier for me to just not ever have that speeding up that makes me want to, because I used to smoke a lot of weed. This was really interesting. For me to hear this, I used to smoke, I was just a daily smoker. I would smoke if I didn't have anything to do that day. I'd smoke kind of throughout the day. I would smoke at the end of the night a lot. It was kind of marijuana maintenance. It wasn't like, whoa, I'm stoned, man. It was just, it would sort of even things out. And what I was told is that the marijuana, if you consistently use it, you don't really feel, but if you have sort of a bipolar gene or you have mood stability issues, that consistent use of it, it will feel totally normal. You're kind of getting a little bit high consistently. And then it can actually permanently damage your ability to regulate your mood within the scope of your own, physicality.
Right.
And then some kids are having like psychotic breaks and are sort of actually having psychosomatic sort of responses to the marijuana that they can't really come back from.
Yeah, my daughter.
So that was interesting.
My daughter's friends with this kid who was smoking a lot, and the kids started hearing voices.
Yep.
And the kids thought that she was pre-psychotic.
Yeah, schizophrenic even.
Yeah, they went through all the training and they went through all this therapy, and they realized, no, the kid's just smoking too much pot, and the kid stopped smoking the pot, and the mind straightened out again. But, at a young age, I don't know how early you started smoking, but like your mind is soft, and your prefrontal cortex at that age with pot use can really get thrown off for life.
No, I think that's right. And I was really lucky because I didn't smoke any weed in high school. I didn't really smoke any weed in college. I was always much more interested in just booze. Just that it felt like that was enough. Why would I do something that was illegal that I could get in so much trouble for? And it wasn't a very attractive drug to me because it sort of meant, especially, when I was in school, but I feel like late 90s, early 2000s, it was still kind of the dazed and confused hippie, tie-dye, reggae hat, multicolored bong, listening to Jimi Hendrix Experience like a fucking loser, just stuff like that. And
it cheers me up.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I got the same prescription as you. No, it's, so I really didn't start smoking until after I got my brain surgery, which was in 2010. So I was almost 30 years old before I started. I think that's a big problem. I'm from Denver, Colorado, and my nephews, one of them in particular, really started smoking weed with his older brother. His brother was in college and he was sort of in high school. And if you're getting high every weekend, or throughout the week when you're in high school, that can be incredibly damaging in a way that kind of alcohol doesn't really, people go to keg parties. It doesn't stick around or affect your brain in the same way.
Yeah.
And, unless if you're getting blackout drunk all the time, that has all kinds of other health consequences. But it seems like what's happening is we thought marijuana was not really as dangerous of a drug or as lethal as alcohol. And that was kind of the popular. But I think what the mental health community is starting to realize is that it actually is perhaps more affecting and more dangerous for certain types of people, certain types of brain chemistry.
Yeah. And it's, being legal, obviously it was legalized in Colorado, I think first. And then since...
Yeah, recreationally it was, yeah.
Yeah. And then LA, they legalized it. And I just know from my friends, I see people smoking way more. And I know that my kids tell me that like every kid in high school is getting high. Like everybody, the way everybody used to drink, now they're all getting high. And I really wonder if, everybody says like, oh, well, with pot, you're never going to get a drunk driving charge. You don't get into a fist fight. You don't beat up your girlfriend. But we don't know what the long-term effects of chronic smoking are on young people yet. And it really is worrisome. As a parent, it's very worrisome to me.
And I can see that. And I also, I think what's hilarious is the drunk driving was such a scary part of being a parent, I think, for so long, and especially in the history of kind of the last 50 years. And the preponderance of people that die from a drunk driving accident is really almost minuscule. If you think about how many people that have gotten a DUI, and then think about how many of those people that got a DUI actually got in an accident. And you think about the amount of those people that actually died or someone in the car died. And then now there's Uber and Lyft. So all you got to do is your kid just needs to have your Lyft account. They call a Lyft at the end of the night, they come back. So that's been completely eliminated, but it's almost a little like, you know, they don't want us smoking weed before, and this is the new, and it's so easy to get. They just legalized it in New York, like a few days ago or last week.
I saw that.
And
almost trying to win people back over again.
Yeah, like there's any reason that he should have. He needs to. I can't believe that we've come to the point where this guy who like took over for the president during the coronavirus because Trump was fucking everything up. So, and suddenly there was this like guiding light of this guy who was like, we're going to get this done. Listen to science. He like really took charge, and I thought killed it as a political leader on the national level. And now he's got women being like, against my will, he grabbed me and kissed both sides of my cheeks and said that he's Italian and that's how they greet people. And he was disrespectful to me and to my husband, who wasn't even at the house. It's like, well, how is it?
He had his hand on my lower back during a photo op.
Yeah, it's really, really gotten bad. And this is why the far right hates us so much, you know, and not us, by the way, because it's not you and me. It's why they say, well, crazy Nancy Pelosi, and they can be right when she's saying, you need to step down and stop being the governor of New York. There's no really, it's the Al Franken syndrome. It's like, really? So you just kind of there's all this infighting, whereas no one's fighting with the Republicans. They understand that the only thing they need to do is just consolidate and remain in power. They've got like two people going, I think you guys are morally corrupt. And the rest of the party is like, well, whatever Trump did seems to be working. Yeah, he called my wife an ugly dog, but I got to keep a hold of his ways.
I was just reading the Sunday Times about this guy. He was a senator from somewhere out west, and he was one of two Republicans to support a bill that wanted to condemn, not do no action, but just to condemn QAnon. And he was one of two Republicans out of the entire Congress, and then he was voted out because of it. So you think Trump is extreme? QAnon has now become something that like 30% of all Republicans subscribe to. That's fucking crazy.
Well, and I think what's kind of sad is they don't really subscribe to it. I think that these people will do anything to sort of retain any kind of power and, you know, populace that's voting for them. And so if a lot of them like QAnon, then they're not going to condemn it. And some of them will say, yeah, I do believe in it. And I think they found the guy who says that he's Q and he's like some Korean kid or something.
Yeah, they did a documentary on HBO about it.
And so, you know, I just think that it's like the left can't get out of their own way. They keep shooting themselves in the foot.
It happened with the women's movement in the 60s. You know, you suddenly had a movement that was getting momentum and it was going to put through the ERA. And then all of a sudden you had, well, the lesbians should be the only ones that really speak. And then the black women say, well, you guys are talking about yourselves, but you're not really including the black experience as also being oppressed. Suddenly it splintered in 9 different directions and it fell apart and it didn't accomplish what it could have.
I had a really funny interaction with the girl I was at a restaurant yesterday in Dallas, Texas, because that's the only places I can perform, or the places where people are batshit crazy. And and I had this really kind of fascinating interaction with this girl. We were drinking champagne and playing Pass the Pig, which is a pig dice game that's really, really funny. And this girl comes over and, you know, I think she recognized me and she was being really sweet about it and wasn't kind of being awkward or fangirl or anything. And then I forget how, but I said, you know, I'll follow you on Instagram. Because she mentioned something about her Instagram. So I went and I followed her and she goes, I'll follow you. You know, what's your name? I said, Teenage Millionaire. And she goes, okay. Weird. I go, well, that's kind of how I dress. And then I'm looking at her bio on Instagram and it's like I think she did a she, her thing. And then it goes, this girl's really cool. She had a really dry sense of humor, really sweet, was having a lot of fun joking around with us. And then at the end of her bio, it said, destroy the patriarchy, protect the environment or something. So then I just started kind of teasing her, and I was like, oh God, this fucking patriarchy. You know what I mean? It's just awful.
Yeah.
But don't you think that you're not really speaking for Black people? Like, what about just oppression? What about white oppression? I mean, does it really have to just be about men kind of being in control? Well, she's like, well, yeah. And I just kind of kept hammering her and joking with her and being like, what about the women who want to become men, that transgender population that then, of course, they want to gain power and try and be in places of influence and hold office. And so are they not part of that patriarchy? And I kind of did what you're talking about, which I just splinter. I put enough holes in the dike, pun intended, that kind of the water came. And then there was this flood of realization where she was like, finally she goes, all right, well, I'm going to take it off. I'll take it off. I was actually really drunk when I wrote that.
Wow.
Because I was actually really wasted when I wrote that. And I was like, you don't have to do it. Let's come up with a better one.
Yeah.
And then I tried all of the lunch that became a dinner to try and think of what would be good. And it was like, kill oppression, grow trees, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I kept coming out with them. And she's like, that's okay. It's okay. And then at the end of it, she was like, I just took it off my bio. And, it's so funny because that's really that's what all this is. It's a series of Black Lives Matter is the best branding that they've done, but defund the police. That's a serious branding issue right there. Okay.
We lost so much steam in that movement when that phrase came up. It was so detrimental to what we were trying to get across. I mean, the message was supposed to be, let's support the police by taking things out of their hands that somebody else might be better suited to do. It wasn't end the police.
It's tough to, because I was discussing this with the directors of a show that I did called Goreburger, and he's so funny, but he was like, where is the branding department on this defund the police thing? And we were joking about how it's so hard it's easier to chant defund the police than it is reallocate police funds to give them more space to do their job and fund, psychological mental health professionals and social workers that they just couldn't figure out how to put that in. And there's so much anger behind it.
Right.
It became defund the police. And then everybody, every ethnicity, Black people, white, everyone was like, whoa, no.
Yeah. Right.
All we've been being told is crime is going up. And now all you Antifa people want to take away the police. I mean, it just was totally the fucked up wrong way to do it. And then this kind of destroy the patriarchy, which you don't see as much, but it's like the future is female. Great, do it. Guys especially are like, yes, let's get, you're a progressive guy. You're saying, yes, please, women, join and help us build the future. We need the resources of every human being to be able to do the best we can with what we've got. But then you go destroy the patriarchy. I mean, what guy is getting behind that? I mean,
I was walking into Ralph's the other day, and there was a middle-aged woman. She had a T-shirt on that said, I don't want to hear anything from men. And I stopped her and I go, what about dialogue? What about, like, if you want to change hearts and minds, which if you have a movement, the movement is not to destroy. It's supposed to be to enlist, enlighten, create dialogue.
Yeah, enlighten. I think
and
that's
when you
right.
wear a T-shirt like that, you make me an enemy, and you make me start. I've seen a lot of comedians move to the right because of the way the branding has happened with a lot of these woke movements. And you've seen guys take it as, look, I'm defensive. Here's a perfect example. I was walking through the park the other day without a mask on. Now, I'm all for masks. I get very upset that people would say I'm not going to wear a mask for whatever reason. But on that day, I forgot a mask and I'm walking through the park. And some guy stops me and he goes, hey, man, there's kids in this park. Put a mask on. And part of me almost went like I was vaccinated, asshole. Or a mask doesn't matter when you're outside. And it made me fall back into maybe understand how these anti-maskers are. When you're attacked you fight back. There's certain mentality of people, you fight back. And now you've created an
Of course, you're going to go to fight, not flight. I mean, you're not right there going to be like, you're right. I'm sorry, man. That's just not your personality.
Right.
And it is really hard to get the virus if you're outdoors. I mean, you actually are right that it's like, and kids don't get the virus more as easily. So he's really kind of bringing his anger about something completely different, much bigger, the anti-mask, all this stuff. And then he's channeling it to you. But I just love the idea of this, and I think that's why people don't understand. They go, well, why do white people feel threatened? They have all the privilege and this white privilege, and not enough of them are anti-racist and all this stuff. And it's like, because there's so much hatred being spewed at white men. And then with this kind of Karen movement, suddenly they looped in all the white women and said, you guys, you kind of became a target instead of an ally. And that just doesn't really work. And then people are going, well, I'm not racist, and I'm not oppressing anybody, and I support these causes and have these friends. So why am I suddenly getting lumped in? So we've created this very strange, bizarro world where white people are almost being taught what it's like to be stereotyped and lumped in and pushed into a certain category that they don't belong to. And I think that's just a really strange thing. And I love that woman. I don't want to hear anything from men. What if your doctor's a man?
Yeah.
You just don't want to hear it.
Right.
Just you know what? Get me a female doctor. But miss, there's a serious problem. You have pancreatic cancer. Yeah. Okay, I got my fingers in my ears. I don't want to hear it. I don't need you to mansplain to me that I need chemotherapy immediately. Yeah. All right, well, I'll have somebody reach out to you in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We're pretty busy post-pandemic, and you may die during that time. I said, I'm not listening. Yeah. I can't hear you. You have a dick. Keep your dick in your pants and your tongue in your mouth, okay? Right. And it's kind of...
Well, it's funny because my godmother, who's a fucking awesome hippie from the 60s, she was like marching, when the women's marches, burning her bra, marching against the war, and she was I
heard she was hardcore. She didn't even take it off when she burned it. It was an on-body burn. I love that.
She took the burns, and those burns were a fucking symbol of oppression. And she worked at a school in Harlem. She was the only white person that worked at the school. She was the only white person in the neighborhood. The kids used to walk her home from school every day so she didn't get mugged. So anyway, one of the things she did was she would get people to speak at the school. She got Maya Angelou to speak. She got Malcolm X. And at the time, the Black Muslims had a policy: we don't talk to white people. That was the rule. So she's walking down the street and she sees a Black Muslim and she goes, hey, I know you're not talking to me, but let me tell you something. I understand the police are trying to get access to your mosque to search and calling you guys terrorists. She goes, I know some of the cops in the neighborhood, and I know a priest in the neighborhood who knows the cops, and we can talk to them. So she hooked it up. She stopped them from raiding the mosque. And in return, she said, I want Malcolm X talking at the school.
That's great.
Isn't that awesome?
That is so fucking cool. And very funny that she says, look, these Black kids need to hear from this. And I'm white, so you guys don't want me to make this connection. But it probably changed all those kids' lives.
Yeah.
And it gave Malcolm X another conduit to sort of build up his, his message. That's also fascinating. I mean, did you see One Night in Miami?
No.
Oh God, it's great. I mean, it's based on a stage play, which you can tell when you watch the film. You're like, okay, this was a theatrical production. There's literally 3, I think it's maybe 5 locations. You know?
Right.
So it all takes place kind of in this, in a hotel room. And then on the roof of the hotel. And it's, sort of fictionalized, but it's Cassius Clay, Malcolm X, James Brown, the football player from the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
And then a famous musician, Sam Cooke, I think.
Oh, shit.
Somebody cooked.
Wow.
And they all kind of come together for Cassius Clay winning. He's the heavyweight champion of the world at that night in Miami when he won. And then he goes back, and Malcolm X is kind of trying to get him to join the Nation of Islam. And, I'm not going to ruin it, but it's sort of, how did Cassius Clay become Muhammad Ali? What did he do for Malcolm X? What did Malcolm X do how did all four of these guys, how did they sort of affect culture, both Black culture, of course, but also just American culture? And, what effects did they have on racial prejudice, racial progress, all that? And it's just absolutely fascinating because, I think we all know a fair amount, but this movie really puts so much history and so much information in a very compelling storyline.
Wow. And
I just really thought, they should be making movies like this and doing less read the book about anti-racism. It's like, to me, that movie makes you think about everything so much more and allows you to draw your own conclusions, allows you to learn from history, allows you to want to go on and pursue and learn more and think about these things more. And, as long as we're on this topic, my sister, who's a brilliant comedian, but she's also a lesbian and an alcoholic, she talks about this in her comedy. And she has some mental health issues as well. But my father, during the kind of Black Lives Matter protests and the eruption after George Floyd, my father started reading a lot of books on race. And my older sister is, who is actually spectacular. She has mixed race kids because she was married to a Black guy before she got a divorce. She's now with a new husband. And so in my family, this is just something that is, we talk about it, we think about it, obviously. And so he sent, I was talking about this on stage, but I couldn't keep doing the joke, but he sent a list to the family. He said, these are some of the books I've been reading. I mean, he's a voracious learner, is what my mother calls him. Not even a voracious reader, a voracious learner. And he read, he had probably read 10 books, and these were the 3 that he thought were the best and we who could glean the most from, everything like that. And my younger sister writes back with the best intentions, obviously, but writes back and says, hey, Pop, thanks for the book suggestions. I think they're great. But, now more than ever, I think it's important to read books. I couldn't help but notice, but all of the authors you recommended are old white men. And I think it's important now more than ever to read books by the oppressed rather than the oppressors. So I've included a list of books that were by Black female authors, Black lesbian authors, queer, transgender, South Pacific Asian and of Somalian descent authors. So she kind of gave her kind of woke reading list, book club. And it was so depressing to me because, I don't know if you know this, Greg, you might be able to guess this, but my father is actually an old white man. And so she was, can you believe it? And so she was sort of like, why are we reading stuff by old white men? And it's like, you just kind of said that your father is just dog shit and we shouldn't even read email. Why are we even reading emails from him? Yeah. He's the oppressor. These other, well, wait a second. These old white guys are writing books about race and ethnicity and race relations and issues with racism, but they're still the oppressors just because they're white.
Yeah. Right.
I don't get it. They actually were alive during the real civil rights movement, like the one that started all of this.
Right.
And so that's a very strange kind of approach. And that was sort of but it is tough to be her age. If you're in your early 30s or your 20s right now, the pandemic especially, I think a lot of people, they were out of work and then they seized upon this moment to become protesters. That was going to be their full-time job, because they didn't have other things to do.
They're trying to mine conflict, and they're trying, and it's equity. There's equity in having been maligned. So you can come out online and make a point about it. And that's not to say a lot of it's not legit, but the stuff that some of it's legit, but it's gotten to be a sport. And my kids are growing up in a world where my son's in college, and every class starts with, how do you identify, he, she, and it's like, I get it that we need to be more sensitive, but do we need to put the fucking brakes on everything because of like 0.001% of the population? It's
a we either go 100 miles an hour in one direction, then when somebody else takes the wheel, they go 100 miles an hour in the other direction.
Yeah.
And we can't just appeal to like, there should just be a centrist party, because that's what most people are thinking about. But Trump had it so right when they said, well, do you think transgender people should be able to use the bathroom of their gender of choice? And he was like, I don't care. Right. And everybody was like, really? We thought you'd be against. But he understands that no one in the United States knows somebody who's transgender. Right. Nobody knows somebody whose kid is struggling with what gender they are. And so what the sort of far left seizes upon are things that you're absolutely right, 0.00001% of the population. And it's just a waste of time where you could be learning stuff. Just say, hey, if any of you guys want to be referred to as him or they instead of she, just let me know. Right. All right. Welcome to biology 101. It's going to be really boring, but let's get through it so you can maybe choose a major that will eventually lead to you being an event planner. Yeah. But I think that it's just such a bummer. And I was going to do, as a comedian, I have some comedian friends, Joe DeRosa. There's some New York guys who are kind of like, I just don't even like doing stand-up anymore because the audiences are too woke. It's too whatever. And I don't perform in Brooklyn. So I think some of that may be coming from there. Right. And in Manhattan, it's like, I don't really do a lot of material about that. But on Twitter, I thought it would be really funny to say, him, her, she is, that, their, thing, did, want, is, are. And just have that be other. I just think that's a silly thing to say, that I'm basically any type of thing that you can put. Them, they's, all, y'all. Yeah. So go all across that, vosotros, ustedes, like all that stuff. And I didn't do it because I was like, people already love to come at me. All this is going to do, the people that it makes laugh won't even mention it. They won't be like, I love your Twitter bio. Maybe one person, because they don't take time to do that. They just laugh. They go, that's funny. But the people that it's their job to bully people for not being woke enough, they'll seize upon me and they'll say, see, he is an asshole and he's such a bad dude. And look at how he doesn't care about this thing. I stopped being friends with a girl during the Black Lives Matter protests because I wasn't going on social media. There was just so much hatred and people were trying to kind of dig back up stuff to go at me and try and bait me into. So I said, I'm not going to go on social media. I don't need it. I'm not promoting anything. You know what I mean? I'm not going to read anything on social media. Occasionally I put a joke out there because life is so terrible. It's just like whenever the protests are happening, it's like 3 months in or 4 months in or something. And then one day on a Tuesday, I got online and I posted, I was watching really funny. I've got a couple of accounts on Instagram, meme accounts that I follow, like Wet Eggs and Cable_Guy and this guy Brisk God. And they don't post any really commentary. It's just every day they post a couple of great videos that are just to be funny or bizarre or weird. And one of these guys had a Twitter account and he had just the weirdest, funniest picture. So I took a screenshot of that and then zoomed in and took a bunch more. And on Instagram, I kind of did his Twitter banner photo and then zoomed in and zoomed in and zoomed in. Nice. And on it, I put, underneath, I kind of just put, I've kind of been tuning out the noise, but I did want to drop in to share this really funny, bio picture, which I think is really important for everyone to see. Yeah. Well, coincidentally, that was on something that was called Blackout Tuesday. Yeah. And I had not been connected to the idea. Right. That was the day that everybody should put a black square on their Instagram, and white people should only give a voice to non-whites to be able to talk online that day.
Right.
And celebrities promise not to post at all during that entire day. And I mean, it was just this like, it was, I got so much fucking hate.
Oh yeah.
Right,
yeah. That was a big faux pas, man.
And everybody was so upset. So I quickly deleted it as fast as I possibly could. And then I wasn't going to like be bullied into putting a black thing on my Instagram. So I figured out some sort of way to do it. But I got a text filled with passive aggressive vitriol from a Mexican girl that I dated in high school. And she one time said to me, and I couldn't quite ever get over it, but that, well, the reason you're successful, a lot of your success is due to your white privilege.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I think it has a lot more to do with work ethic.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, but it's, it's also you're white. And I just was like, I know a lot of rich white people that are super unsuccessful because they don't work hard.
Yeah.
I know a lot of rich black people that aren't very successful because they didn't work hard. So that we had that issue in the past. And then she says, I just want to tell you that I'm praying that you are not making a joke out of today and what an important day it is. So I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, but if you would call me as soon as possible, sort of saying like, so you can prove to me that you're not this terrible white asshole.
I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. I have the power and I'm giving you a gift.
And that pissed off Kate so fucking much. She was like, what the fuck is this benefit of the doubt? Who the fucking gives a shit? She's like, you're a fucking comedian. Like, and I called Caroline and I go, what is the deal? Do you really think I would like make a joke out of this? And she was like, well, I didn't think so. But, I was I had just had this terrible emotional reaction. I was quivering and my heart was beating fast. So it becomes all about her. It's all about, she's pretending to say, TJ, you have this voice of 1 million followers, and I don't. So my power is to sort of take power over you and make you feel bad and sort of guilt you into doing and spreading the information that I would and I want to if I had your audience.
Right.
And it still does not connect to her that nobody is fucking following my social media for like advice on how to approach racial tension and social injustice.
Right. Look, no, I mean, it goes back to goals and strategies of a movement. You have to have goals and strategies. And if it's just to vent, if it's to project that you've had a negative emotion because of something, so you're entitled to enforce some kind of, action and recourse, that's not helping me. As a white guy, I know I was born upper middle class white. I did have advantages. My dad paid for college. I lived a life that somebody who was poor and black did not live. Have I grown during this movement? Absolutely. I've read a lot of black authors. I've watched a lot of these great black movies that are out. I've evaluated and I've changed. Where I haven't changed is where I've been attacked, which has happened. And that's made me resent the movement. So what's your strategy? Is it to alienate me and correct me and punish me? Or is it to change my mind and open me up, which then creates more equality?
Yeah, I mean, she really lost an ally there.
Right.
Just her approach in general was, instead of, hey, I want to let you know, like, today's Blackout Tuesday, and maybe you didn't see it online, but people are doing X, Y, and Z, and I just wanted to make sure you knew that because I saw you didn't post about it. Right. As easy as that, I would call her and say, thank you. I wasn't paying attention. I was trying to stay away from all the hatred out there.
Yeah.
But this is great. I'd like to do this. And can you send me some links of information or causes that people, and I'll post that. But instead, because she was on the attack, on the offensive, then, I would, now I kind of, and what's really sad is now I'm having this problem with family and stuff. And that actually has a lot more to do with like fame and that kind of stuff. But I'm having a problem recently, and you seem like enough of a curmudgeon when you're Fitzdog it up and down the radio waves that maybe you might agree, but it's like, I kind of don't care if I ever talk to that girl again.
Yeah.
And I'm having some stuff with family members where my sister and I aren't talking, and there's really, I think my parents said, we'll pay for therapy if you want to, go to therapy and work this stuff out with your sister. And first of all, I'm like, I can handle financially. My savings went poof because of the pandemic, but I think I could cover therapy. That's not the point of it,
Yeah.
It's Morgan has never come to me and said, hey, I'd love to do therapy. And I think what's kind of happened is, I have my theories, but I think it's easier for her to have this narrative of I don't talk to my brother and, and just not kind of be associated with me. I think and I would do this too. A big part of it is, and I don't know if she's still going to pursue comedy because of the pandemic, but I think a big part of it is if your older brother was a very famous comedian and you were trying to be a comedian, there's sort of two narratives that people might come across. And I always think of it as a guy going, hey, are you, you're Morgan Miller. Is TJ Miller your brother? Are you TJ Miller's sister? And she could go, yeah, actually, yeah. And I tour with him, which she did for a little while. So I tour with him sometimes. And I've written on his, I wrote for him for Critics' Choice Awards, something like that. And then that narrative, people go, oh, so that's why you're a successful comedian. You're not funny, but you have a brother who's,
right.
you have family in show business. Or, hey, is TJ Miller your brother? Are you TJ Miller's sister? And Morgan says, yeah, but we don't really talk.
Yeah.
And then the narrative is, wait, what? Why? Oh, it's problematic and he's kind of an asshole and he's really self-centered. And so, we just don't talk, and we used to work together, but then I just, I just couldn't handle, him. And so now I just don't talk to him. Yeah. And that's a whole other, that takes the narrative in a different direction where suddenly the story is about her and not about me.
Right.
And I'm not even really in her narrative. Whereas if we're together, and then it feels like she's in my narrative.
Yeah.
And she's a part of my world, and that's how people see it. So I actually don't blame her at all for kind of wanting to have a clean sort of break and kind of maximum distance from somebody who is already successful and already very well known in the field that she's pursuing, specifically show business, where that's a whole, nepotism runs rampant. And that's one of the things that people really use to say, they're not that talented. They're just
right.
Jaden Smith.
It's like, Tony Rock, who's Chris Rock's brother, is a very funny comic. Great.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
And Chris, dude, yeah. I don't think Chris has, been a part of his success in any way. I think that they've got really strong boundaries. Chris does his thing. Tony does his. No animosity, no jealousy. I've talked to Tony. He doesn't feel like, why doesn't Chris throw me a bone? He's like, I'm going down to fucking Tampa this week and I'm selling out 5 shows. Yeah. I'm a single, good-looking guy. I'm fucking killing it on every level.
He kills.
Yeah. So anyway, listen. Speaking of the road, let me give your dates because I have to do another interview. I don't usually do interviews.
You're back to back. It's on your birthday. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thanks, man.
I can't believe this.
Great birthday. Threw a move on the wife this morning. Yes.
What? Yeah. You got it done?
Got it done.
Yeah. That's the way. That's the Fitzdog way. I'm telling you, you were Fitzdogging it in the AM. Yeah.
In the AM. It didn't even plan it. It's not like I went to bed and I went, let me set the alarm 15 minutes early. Just rolled over.
15.
Yeah.
And there you were.
Yeah.
And the dog, you rolled over and the dog was already Fitzing. You know what I mean? And that's the way it is.
She was presenting.
She was throwing that Fitzdog a bone. Forget Tony Rock and Chris Rock. The wife threw that Fitzdog a bone. I think it's great. I think, it's wonderful and beautiful that you're doing, podcasts on your birthday. And thank you for inviting me on here. And Chicago just canceled on me. But this weekend, I don't know when this is coming out, but going to be in Greensboro, North Carolina this coming
Comedy
weekend,
Zone?
April 9th and 10th. Yeah, the Comedy Zone. And then after that is
Tacoma, Washington, April 23rd through 25th. Then we got Jacksonville, Florida, April 29th through May 1st at the Comedy Zone.
And then we're taking off some time for some family planning. Kate and I are going to go to Los Angeles and get some of that done. You can find all my my dates on tjmillerdoesnothaveawebsite.com, or I post not TJ Miller on Twitter, Teenage Millionaire on Instagram. But what I'm really excited about and what I want to share is that the return to New York City, to my home club, the Comic Strip Live.
Nice.
I'm headlining 3 shows at limited capacity. April 17th here in Manhattan on 82nd Second, the Comic Strip Live. It's only 60 tickets per show, but if you live in New York or the tri-state area, this is the first time I've performed in New York City I did one sort of outdoor show at the Stand, which is another great club. But you know, it's going to be amazing. I haven't performed in Manhattan indoors in 14 months.
I like you with a small crowd. I did a show with you once at the in the upstairs of a Japanese restaurant on the 3rd Street Promenade, and you were on stage improvising Shakespeare. It was fucking amazing. You're just such a versatile, interesting comic who makes brave choices on stage and flows, and it's great to watch. So if you can get a chance, get some tickets, go out and see TJ Miller. And thank you, my brother. I appreciate you being on.
Thank you. And I really feel that you are the Jimi Hendrix experience of comedians. So I just want to make that very, very clear. And also, I'll never forget, I want to bring this up every time I do your show. I often think about when I'm in the green room, and of course, thinking about doing this pod with you, about when we were at Comics, the comedy club in New York City,
right,
and you were headlining, and I'd either done a show or I was opening for you, and Pete Holmes came into the green room and he was being loud and boisterous and all things Pete Holmes, and just too loud, laughing too loud, all of it. And you just kind of quietly turned and said, "Hey, can you go away? Like, I need this space. This is a time when a headliner takes his space, and I need to get into a certain mindset and mentality. You guys are kind of yelling and laughing and all this stuff." And I was mortified. And Pete Holmes was like, "Oh yeah, sorry." And then kind of looked at me like, this guy needs to get all in character and stuff. And I was like, "You fucking idiot. This guy's the fucking headliner and we're acting like assholes in the green room. And he has to get on stage in like 8 minutes." And so I was mortified. Pete was almost offended that you had interrupted his good time in your space for your show at the club that was yours for that night. And I just think about that all the time. And I channeled your kind of moxie and bravado, but just you're like, you know, I don't know. I don't want to say courageous, but it was very sort of quietly and confidently ballsy to just be like, "Get the fuck out of here. I have a show. People are depending on me to be funny. This is my fucking space."
Pete hired me years later to write on his sitcom. And
yeah, I'm sure.
And then tortured me on the sitcom.
Really?
So you got,
oh,
no, not really. No, he was great.
He's got an all you have to do is listen to his podcast, but he's got a weird thing about people that are funnier than him or have a skill set at something that he doesn't have or isn't as good at. It's very strange, but I channeled the Fitzdog of it all. I was in Tampa and there's this really funny comic, John Jacobs. He's, Florida based in Tampa. And he came to perform with me in West Palm Beach. And he's really fun. He's so fun to watch. He's great. And I just have a rule during the pandemic. No one's allowed in the green room. And anybody that comes into the green room has to have a mask on.
Yeah.
And I showed up to the show. And I walk into the green room and he's just sitting down with no mask, talking to the manager whose mask was like drooping beneath his nose.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just Fitzdog'd it. I was like, what the fuck? I go, what the fuck are you doing? And the guy's like, oh, sorry. And he put his mask on. And I was like, why the fuck? What are you doing in here? You don't have a mask on? He's like, oh, sorry. I was like, I Fitzdog it. I go, get the fuck out of here, you fucking weird Floridian. Get the fuck out of my green room. Don't come back in here. Get the fuck out of here. And I didn't talk to him the rest of the thing. He drove home early because he knew he had fucked it up. And I'll never work with him again. It's like it just took that amount. Yeah. And then I Fitzdog it. I could not. And it's, you got to lay down the line. You got to lay down the line Fitzdog style.
You Fitzdog. All right, I got to jump. My other guest is on the line. TJ Miller, you're the best. Thank you so much for coming on.
Happy birthday, great comedian.
Thanks, man.
Happy birthday.
Okay, we got a new sponsor to the show, and I got to remind you guys, support the sponsors. You help support the show, keep it going. Hear me out. This is a company called Upstart, which is a very exciting prospect for those of you carrying a lot of debt. Maybe you got it from a few different sources, credit cards, etc. You don't sleep at night. I've been in this situation. It's all you think about. You wake up in the middle of the night. You can't think, is my rate going up, whatever? Well, Upstart can help you consolidate, lower your payments, whether it's credit cards, consolidating high-interest debt, or funding personal expenses. Over 500,000 people have used Upstart to get a simple fixed monthly payment. And I'll tell you something else. I went on the website. I walked through all the steps. It is so easy and smooth, straightforward use. You'll get through it in 10 minutes, 5 minutes. I don't know. It's not going to take you long, and you're going to start sleeping better. They look at more than just your credit score. They're looking at income, employment history, so they can get you better rates with trusted partners. And they can check your rate right up front. Loans between $1,000 and $50,000. Oh, and it says here, 5 minutes. Yeah, it takes 5 minutes to check. You can receive funds as fast as 1 business day after the acceptance of your loan. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today as you go to upstart.com/Greg. That's upstart.com/GREG. Don't forget, use that URL. Let them know we sent you. Let them know you came from Fitzdog Radio. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/Greg.